Looks like you've been missing a lot of work lately.
I wouldn't say I've been missing it, Bob.
What would you say you do here?
God damn it. Bob, we love playing here tonight. My brother's ready.
It helps if you think of it as a game, Bob. Every game has a winner and a loser.
You must possess strength to inflict pain, Bob.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 19 of Two Bobs Cast. We are the Two Bobs. We are rock and metal A to Z podcast. I am Herd, and I'm here once again with my partner, Mr. H. How you doing, Mr. H?
I'm doing okay. I'm a little under the weather, so I have to apologize my bodily functions of coughing and
phlegm,
perhaps
and
sneezing and being stuffy. Yeah, so but I'm here.
It's all good,
rocking,
man.
and can't stop rock and roll, right?
You can't.
Let's go.
So today we are going to get into Led Zeppelin, classic, revolutionary, I guess, with hard rock and roll. One of the first.
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, just we do a lot of metal on here, but these guys, I don't know that they quite, kick over to the metal portion, but they're hard rock. I mean, that pioneers of that. They
so funny. Quit reading my intro here, would you?
Oh,
Jeez.
sorry about that. Oh,
my goodness.
Mr. H. Let's pretend like I didn't even say anything.
Wow.
What about
it's
Led
just
Zeppelin?
so funny when you hear this. Okay,
I've
formed
never
in
heard it.
1968. Formed in 1968. They evolved out of the Yardbirds, and originally were named the New Yardbirds, which I didn't know until this week. So I thought that was interesting. Comprised of the only four members they'd ever officially have: Jimmy Page, Robert Plant, John Paul Jones, and John Bonham. It's almost as if fate put these guys together. Just four incredible musicians, just formed right away into one of the biggest rock bands of all time, like you said. Check this out. This is what I wrote in here. If Sabbath were the godfathers of metal, Led Zeppelin were the godfathers of hard rock. That's exactly what you just said. So
I wholeheartedly agree. I agree with that. That's right on. Like
Sabbath, you even cite them as influences, in some ways. They were initially unpopular critics, of course.
Yep.
They were.
Yep.
But they put out 8 studio albums over 10 years and were one of the better selling bands of all time, really. So, I mean, there's a lot there. So it's just funny, the reviews, though, the critics. But yep, pretty much exactly what you said.
Well, hindsight is a little easier, especially with these type of,
sure.
Because unlike a lot of bands that we do on here, these guys had their time, their 10 years ish, like 12 years, and that was it. I mean, they unfortunately lost Bonham, and that was it for them. That was
it. That's where we stopped. I mean, they did put out another album after that, but we're not going to cover Coda because it wasn't even recorded, fully recorded by these guys. There was stuff filled in, there were unfinished songs, there were unreleased stuff. It was just kind of a hodgepodge. So we're not even going to go into that one. We're just going to cover it till the breakup. And unfortunately, that was the end of them, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, no coming back for money. I mean, They did here and there, but only for like causes, really, not for money. Where they could have done a world tour at any time for untold amounts of money, and never did it. So
well, Plant did his own thing, and
yep.
Jimmy Page did his own thing. Like, man, the Coverdale and Page stuff was pretty good, I thought, and they stayed very, very busy. Zeppelin was done. He, pretty much basically died with Bonham, which is sad, but you know what? We're not going to sit and grind, 5 extra albums at the end of their catalog where it's like, guys, like this isn't Zeppelin anymore.
Right.
So
that's funny. Yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting ride. All right, Led Zeppelin, first album. And Brian just talked last week about bands, naming their albums after themselves. But here we go. Not only we have one, we kind of have four of them, or three
Yep.
for legit for sure, but the fourth
Right.
one pretty much the same. So
Yep.
interesting. Jimmy Page produced all this stuff. God bless him. It sounds amazing. Almost all of it does. I mean, all 8 albums. Like this dude, he had more talent than just writing guitar riffs and playing guitar. Man, he could produce too. Man, holy crap. Um, he wrote most of the music. Plant writes most of the lyrics over their whole 10-year run. The other guys did their songwriting credits all over the place, but the Robert Plant basically also the blueprint, standard poster child of frontmen,
Yep.
right? With the great vocal range, huge head of hair, the tall, bare-chested dude, stage presence, like he had everything, Remember him swinging that microphone around all the time. This album, it sounds amazing even after 54 years. So there's a real heavy blues influence, especially at first, especially on this album. There's some songs just I don't know what to even call them. They're kind of straight up, just kind of soft blues. That for me, if I'm sitting in a blues club and having some drinks or something that's on in the background, that's one thing. But if I want to listen to music, like it kind of doesn't do enough for me.
Yeah.
It kind of drones on a bit, But they build on that though, and they definitely got me to like more of that type of stuff as they built on it. But there's a couple songs on here where I was like, man, I don't know if I can do this for another 4.5 minutes or whatever, Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You is one of those, classic songs that influenced so much of the heavier rock music to come in the next 50 years, with the quiet, excellent acoustic guitar riff at the beginning, Dust in the Wind, anybody? Kind of, it's just something
Right.
like that, emotional vocals and then morphing into a heavier groove, just a blueprint for so much great music that we've listened to and got into over the years. My favorites on this one, Good Times, Bad Times, Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You, Communication Breakdown. I like all those a lot. A couple of the ones I would skip or You Shook Me, and then there's the lyrics do go all night long in there too, which I thought AC/DC. I Can't Quit You, Baby. Those are the two bluesy kind of droney songs that I tend to want to skip. I'm like, where's this going? And then some songs like you have to wait them out because it'll pick up, but those songs kind of never really did. Days Days and Confused picks up. It starts out that way, but it picks up later on, so you can't like give up on that one. And I've heard that song a million times, so I already knew that. But there's some crazy bonzo drum fills in there too that are great. If you didn't hang around for the end of Days and Confused, there's some great stuff in there. The rating I have for this one is a B-. I have this one at 4. There's some great stuff here, but also, like I said, some fairly boring, kind of repetitive stuff too. That it just that I'm not into. Not that they don't do a good job doing it, just that I personally am not into. So, what did you think of Led Zeppelin, the self-titled number 1?
Yeah, this is classic stuff. So I was raised on this, and this is one of the first bands that I can remember in my life getting into. I think Led Zeppelin was one of my dad's favorite bands. And when we first started this podcast, we talked about, me sitting in with a record player. That's what I did. And my dad had all these records. And to me, it just kind of represents a time frame for me in my life, being a kid, learning what this stuff was. A lot of this stuff, it doesn't hold up as well for me today as it did then. It's still great. Like I can still recognize this band and all this, everything that kind of comes along with them. Everything that you said, introducing the band. This album to me doesn't quite hold up as well as the other ones, but there's just so many good moments on here. So all the things that you mentioned, Good Times, Bad Times, Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You, Dazed and Confused. I basically love this whole album until probably the last song, How Many Times. I think it kind of goes on a little too long for me. But these are classic songs. Like everybody's probably heard a lot of these before. This is good. It just doesn't quite hold up as well, though it's very original with the ideas, a little bit more than maybe the next album, too. just the first one is original. It's all fresh. It all kind of feels new. So it kind of gives me a little stepping stone over that, at least two, which we'll get to next. But I'm right with you. This is about a B minus album. I also have it at number 4.
Okay.
So we're right on the same spot to start with this. It's good. I think the production's going to get even better.
Yeah.
And ultimately the songwriting is going to get more creative later
Yeah,
on.
see, that's where I'm at. Like, this album, it seems like, yeah, it's new and fresh, and nobody sounded like them at the time that I know of.
Right.
Maybe there were some bands that just never made it at all that we would never have heard of that did, but as far as I know, that nobody sounded like these guys. But this album, it doesn't really kind of have an identity,
Right.
really. It's kind of all over the place. So, not that they're trying to sound like something that they're not, but they hadn't really found what really works for them. It's kind of all over the place. So, yeah.
Yep. Agreed.
All right, so you had this at 4 also. We pretty much have it the same spot. So,
Yep.
nothing more to say there. Then we go, let's see, that was January 13th, 1969. Now we're at October 22nd, 1969. Oh, 9 months later. Can you imagine if bands today, like, some, I don't know, Killswitch Engage puts out an album and they put out another one in another 9 months and another one the year after that? Like, I mean, it's just.
They all
it's
did it though this
absurd.
time of year. It's
Yeah,
insane.
It's absurd that they were able to do this. Like, bands now are like, well, how can we do that? Well, somebody did it, and they did a great job at it. So I don't know. So, but it's amazing how they could write songs that fast, and still sound that good. But Led Zeppelin 2, October 22nd, 1969. 9 songs. Page produced this one again. He produced all of them. I don't even really need to even keep repeating that. They pick it up a bit here, though, with more mid-tempo, kind of heavier rock stuff. More guitar hooks, always a good thing. There's a more defining sound for the band for me, like I was saying. I feel like this kind of gels more together with what they're really about. There's less exploration here, more kind of honing in on that sound. So my favorites here is Whole Lot of Love, What Is and What Should Never Be, Heartbreaker, Living Loving Maid. Those are all really, really good songs. I did not like the Lemon song. Never really liked the Lemon song. It's way too long. And I just don't like it. And I still don't like it. So this is a B for me. This is upper tier now. This is 3. I like this one quite a bit more than I like 1. There's more heavier rock tracks and less of the slow bluesy whole songs. There's definitely parts in here, but they kind of got away from doing like an entire 5-6 minute song of that on this album. They didn't do any of that, so I was thankful for that. What did you think of Led Zeppelin 2?
So I went the other way with this one. I like this one a little less than 1.
Okay.
I guess I can't really explain why. To me, listening to it, it didn't feel like enough different for me. It kind of felt like 1 part 2 for me. Maybe the songs aren't as, I don't know. I guess it's really hard. I'll just say the first 3 records for me were really hard to kind of rank. I have them so close, like all 3 of them so close.
I guess I have them all ranked in an order also, but I feel like 3 is kind of a drop off for me.
Yeah, well, no doubt about it.
Anyway.
But again, I just feel like this one, I still like it. I mean, they're all right in the same range. They're all B minus for me.
Okay.
So I
same place.
Yeah, it's basically they're just so close to me. They're in the same place. It's the same year, like you said.
Yeah.
I like Whole Lot of Love for sure. Thank You. I've always liked that one. Ramble On is cool, except for the weird moaning and stuff at the end of it.
Yeah.
Some of it gets kind of weird.
Yeah.
That's
why I don't have that as a skipper, but I don't have it as a favorite either. More or less just because of that part. It's a good song until you get to there, and I'm like, man, can they just cut this part off?
Yeah, I always liked Moby Dick. I get about this time is when I really start recognizing what Bonham does.
Yeah.
And it just, every album, I feel like he tones in more and more. I think he gets better and better. And I think John Paul Jones gets better and better. And Jimmy Page is strange. He's a legend. It's weird. He's not very technical. He's very kind of, I don't want to say sloppy because he's legendary. I wouldn't say that, but
Yeah.
he's not like the most. He's not the shred guy. He's very.
He's not a technical
Yeah,
player.
he's not.
Really, yeah. He's more of a feel player, but he writes some amazing riffs, man.
Oh, the
my
riffs are
God.
legendary. Like
Oh my God.
And some later on, the
I hear
guitar
you, though.
solos are crazy too. So
Yeah, Bonham's the one that blows me away. Like I listen to this
Yep.
even now today, and I know how great this dude was. I mean, what a loss that was, you know, like to hear that dude play drums for another 15, 20, 25 years would have been unbelievable. Like he's so good and he stands out. Like, and they don't bury him, they don't hide him. Like
No.
you can hear it all. And there's drum solo songs. Like this dude is ridiculous, and they knew it.
Yeah.
So and just he stands out so much. I'm hearing him play, and I'm like, my God, this guy is amazing. And that's after listening to Bill Ward and like the other dudes, you know, like this guy is almost on another planet. He's so good.
Yeah, there's just something to say about guys that they just hit their drums so hard, but yet he's in time. You know, he's not dragging it down. He's just one of those guys. Like, how are you hitting it that hard and staying in time? And it's just amazing. So, but great album. Again, we're still mid tier to me. I like this one a little bit less, but it's 5. It's not. It's just. I think we kind of have these in just a different order, 1 to 3.
Yeah, this is funny.
But it's a B- ish to me, so it's still mid tier. Good album. I like some stuff coming up a little bit better.
Okay. Speaking of coming up, Led Zeppelin 3. 1 year, about 2 weeks short of 1 year. October 5th, 1970, 10 songs. This, page again. This is it's classified as folk rock on Wikipedia, I noticed, but I'm guessing that's probably because of all the
second half
played. That too, but there's a lot of instruments on here too. Like I guess John Paul Jones kind of became somewhat of an instrumentalist on this album. There's banjos, there's synths, there's mandolin, there's double bass. Like there's all kinds of stuff on here, and there's I think there's some recorder in here, or no, that's Stairway. But yeah, he's become like an instrumentalist at this point, or he's really delving into other instruments, and there's a lot of that on here. It's just kind of backing off the straightforward rock stuff, which there's a lot of weird experimentation out here that didn't work for me. Now, when I say a lot, I meant a lot more than I like. Like I get that there's always going to be some of that. Especially with a band like this where they're so talented, they're gonna be out there exploring the edges of what they're able to do, but it's a little too much of that for me, where there's like I just need more of the songs that hook me, and that I can't get enough of the riff or whatever, and it's just not as much of that on here for me. My favorite's their Immigration song, which you were just playing earlier. The thing I laugh about that song, and it's not the song's fault. Obviously, it's a very popular song, but I'm just going to throw it out there. That they play it twice in Thor Ragnarok bothers me so much. Like, there are so many songs that they could play during a fight scene in a Marvel movie, and they play that song 2 times in the same movie, and I have yet to hear anybody explain why they do that. You name me any other movie that does that, other than like the love theme, and having it like instrumental later. Like during a fight scene, there's all these heavy rock songs they could play, and they play the same 1-2 times. I just don't understand.
Well, Iron Man had the right idea. At least they did like a bunch of AC/DC songs.
Yes. Why you play the same exact song 2 times? Anyway, I always go off on a tangent. Every time that song comes up or that movie comes up, that's the first thing that comes out of my mouth because it's the dumbest thing ever. So anyway, Tangerine I really like. It has it's a Stairway to Heaven precursor. Like if you listen to this song, you'll be like, okay, I see where this kind of Stairway came from listening to that. But that's a great song too. My skipper's here, Since I've Been Loving You. It's way too long. Gallows Pole. Hats Off to Roy Harper. What is this? What is Hats Off to Roy Harper? I don't know what that is. I really don't. I don't know why it's on here. I don't know what is that.
It's like they're traditional folk songs. That one and the Gallows Pole. Those are all folk songs that they kind of molded.
Yeah, I think that they even have songwriting credits for some some people that wrote some of this stuff that they kind of morphed it into theirs. Yeah, it says it's a traditional song. It doesn't even really say who wrote it. But yeah, it's same with Gallows Pole, like you said. The arrangement is Page and Plant, but hats off to Roy Harper. The arrangement is by Charles Obscure. I don't know who Charles Obscure is, but that's a pretty obscure name.
It is.
I have this rated as a C plus. This is mid tier for me. This is number 5, so I didn't like this as much as 2 or as much as 1. So, but I have these all kind of together, like you said. This is just a little drop off for me, but other than Immigrant Song, there's just not a lot stands out on here for me. What did you think of Led Zeppelin 3?
Yeah, I always kind of skipped out on the second side of this a whole lot. Didn't
Makes
really
sense.
care for it. Yeah, I guess,
Tangerine's pretty good.
and I like Gallows Pole too. It's okay. I just that first side, and then I go to something else. Like
Okay,
it was like a half album to me. Immigrant Song's awesome. I like Celebration Day.
Yeah, that's not bad. It's not one I
Yeah.
would skip. Yeah, I don't mind that one.
I like Since I've Been Loving You. I agree it's too long, but it's a great song. But once you go to side 2, I mean, I agree. I kind of feel like Tangerine Gallows Pole's okay, but like I don't need to go to flip to side 2 to hear it personally. So
Yeah,
for me, I feel like it's a half album, half they kind of went a different direction, and that direction didn't really go towards me early of my life or now going back to it. So this is a 6 for me. It just they rank 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for me. It's still a B minus C plus. I think when it hits, it hits. It's creative. They went for something different. I appreciate that. It's pretty good. It's just it's not great, and I think just the folk stuff is not for me. Just doesn't really fit with what I want to hear. So number 6, C plus B minus. It's all right there. 1, 2, 3, very close, but they go in that order for me.
All righty, off to Led Zeppelin 4, or the Untitled album. This is the one with the symbols on it that you see on our screen. This is Page produced. Once again, this came out November 8th, 1971. So my mom was pregnant with me, but I was not born for another 3 months after this. 8 songs, back to straightforward rock, and it's just what an album they put together here. This is one of the biggest selling albums ever. On the strength of pretty much Stairway. I mean, there's some other great songs on here too, but I think Spotify has Stairway as over 1 billion, played over 1 billion times. Like it's just amazing to think about that. But I guess the song's 53 years old, so
yeah,
but streaming's only been around for how long? That's a lot of plays.
Yep.
But this was mostly written by Page, like the kind of the framework, but it was contributed to by all members, with John Paul Jones adding the recorder in the beginning, which is pretty iconic. Like you don't hear that, like outside of maybe Jethro Tull or something, you're not going to hear that pretty much in anything else. The Bonham entrance midway through, like he kind of just put that together. So they all had their. Page, I guess, played the solo on the telecast that was given to him by Jeff Beck, too. I was reading. I thought that was interesting. Plant wrote the lyrics about a woman who took everything without giving anything back. It's basically what the song's about. But it's a long one. But for me, that one's always worth listening to, and I can't shut it off. Like
Never.
I can't skip the rest of it. You know what I mean? Like it's so good. Everything about it, like it's so emotional. Even it's just it's a moving song. It really is. So obviously that's one of my favorites. So one of the longer songs I probably could ever like, but I do love it. Black Dog, Rock and Roll, Misty Mountain Hop. There's no skippers on here for me. It's not all great, but I don't have anything that I would skip. So this for me is this is a B plus. This is top tier for me, but this is 2 for me because I really like it. It's a great album, but I don't love all of it, but I love most of it. So
Okay.
little room to grow here. So what did you think of Untitled Led Zeppelin 4?
As I always called it, Stickman. And
Stickman.
It's what I don't think it's only a me thing. I'm pretty sure that people have referred to it as that, but
I've never heard that term ever.
never. Okay,
Nope, not once.
because I always thought it was
Just being
maybe.
honest.
Well, when I started listening to this record, this is the one that stands out the most to me as a kid.
Okay.
And I always told my dad, I'm going to listen to Stickman and
Uh-huh.
Led Zeppelin Stickman, and it kind of stuck with me. Maybe that's just me.
Yeah, I
the whole
wonder
time.
if you ask him, like, I wonder if did you hear it from him, or like, is that like
Yeah.
where did you pick that up from? I wonder. So
It could just be
it's
a
interesting.
kid looking at the cover and
Yeah.
seeing a guy with the sticks, and that's a
Yeah.
Stickman. So,
Yep, that's true.
but this album to me is legendary. It goes up there with all the other things we've talked about that we're going to talk about. I love this record. I love every moment of it. I'm a big nerd, and I love the Lord of the Rings stuff in here when they talk about the Battle of Evermore,
Uh-huh.
Misty Mountain Hop. I mean, all these songs they were huge Hobbit and Lord of the Rings fans. So a lot of that was inspired. I'm a big dork when it comes to that stuff, so that's awesome. Every song on here is legendary to me. I would never skip a second of it. I literally love it all. It's the pinnacle of me learning music and learning guitar solos and guitar riffs and amazing drumming and every
Stickman.
and men in a grass field with sticks, and I
Harvest.
always felt so bad. The guy looked like he needed somebody to help
A
him.
hand, or
Yeah.
like somebody to carry half the sticks, maybe. Jeez, I think
But-
it's from like 18. Where did I read? It's like 1823 or something. Like it's crazy how old that picture is,
Yeah.
and that they bought it and put it on the cover. Anyway, go ahead. I'll see if I
Yeah,
can find
it's
it.
all
But
good.
that was 1892. My bad. It's not quite
Okay.
that old, but yeah, Thatcher.
So he didn't
But,
get a chance to see what his
so
work.
Yeah, right. The picture. So it was by the time they got in contact with it, was 80 years old already. So that's pretty crazy.
Okay.
But anyway,
Yeah, so Black Dog's amazing. Rock and Roll is one of those songs that people will tell me I don't ever have to hear that again. I'm good.
except for every concert you ever go to, and they do a jam session at the end, they're all gonna play rock and roll.
Right. Obviously, Stairway to Heaven. I'm a guitar solo guy, and that's one of the best that's ever been created.
Yeah.
It just melts like butter in your ears. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Misty Mountain Hop, awesome. 4 Sticks. Going to California is amazing. When the levee breaks, I just love the drums in that and the little guitar part of the da 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 da. It's so good.
Yeah.
I love this album. It's easy number 1 for me. This is an A+. It's really hard for me to not just gush over it because, I fell
Gush
in love
away.
with it. Yeah. I fell in love when I first listened to it, and nothing in this genre will ever compare to it. Give me some heavier stuff and I'll listen. That's a different genre of music, but when it comes to rock and roll, this is number 1 for me. And I loved listening to it this week, and I listened to it again today, just in the background while I was working. It's just an easy listen, and every song's good. There's no bad moments. Easy A+ and number 1 for me. So I love it.
All right. Sounds like you love that one.
I do. It's wonderful.
March 28th, 1973, Houses of the Holy. 8 songs. It's the final release on the Atlantic label. They later created their own label, Swan Song Records, and the rest of their releases come out on that. This is the only album to contain complete printed lyrics. 2 band members now have studios in their home, which allowed them to be more creative and write more pieces of songs. And so I feel like that helped create some of the stuff that's on here that I love. This album, I do love this album. Rolling Stone called this. I thought this was funny because this is Rolling Stone for you too, right? Like they were really influential for a time. I'm going to give them credit for that, but they've turned into such a joke, and like they contradict themselves like so much. It's funny. Makes me laugh. So when I read stuff like this, Rolling Stone called it one of the dullest and most confusing albums released that year. And then in 2003, they had it ranked 149 on the top 500 albums of all time.
Right.
But yet,
it all adds up.
It was dull and confusing. Oh, okay. So I don't know. It's just weird. Great riff on No Quarter. I don't have that listed as a favorite because it's just I love so many other songs on here, but that one,
Have you heard the Tool version of it?
I believe so. It's been a while though.
Dude, listen to it. Oh
I
my
will.
god. Oh my
I
god.
will.
So good.
I
love
love the song remains the same. Over the Hills and Far Away is my favorite Led Zeppelin song. Dire Maker's great. The Ocean's just iconic. It's weird how many times like you don't realize, like I don't realize by name. I mean, I do now, but how many times over my life I didn't realize by name what song that was. I know the song, but then it just for whatever reason I don't know. I can never equate that it was called The Ocean. So I hear it, I'm like, oh my god, this is such a great song. So, but it's funny how it kind of sneaks up on me, or it used to anyway. But I do have a skipper on this one. This is A minus. This is top tier for me. This is their number one album, but it does have a skipper. That's how much I like the rest of the album. The Crunge. I don't like the Crunge. The Crunge made me cringe a little, but I didn't really like the Crunge, and that was one of the ones that a few of the critics kind of pointed at it as like, what was this? What are you doing here? So it's definitely a little out there, but I have this as top two. This is my number one. It's my favorite Led Zeppelin album containing my favorite song by them. What did you think of Houses of the Holy?
It's funny. I definitely agree with you on the Crunge. Skip It doesn't belong. I can't stand that song.
Yeah.
But I love the rest of it. It's a really, really good album. It's definitely top tier for me. Every other song is phenomenal. You mentioned basically all of them. I do like that a lot of these songs were covered. Dancing Days was done by Stone Temple Pilots.
Yes.
Dire Maker. Who was that done by? That was by somebody. Can't think of it at the moment, but we talked about No Quarter. Tool did that. Was phenomenal. Dire Maker. Who did that? It's gonna bug me to.
I know.
So
anyway,
while you're looking that up, I agree with you. I love it. This kind of feels like a natural progression from Stickman.
Stickman.
Really like this one. This was really tough for me to rank because there's 3 Head and Shoulders Zeppelin albums for me, and this is in that top 3. Unfortunately, I'm going to put it at 3 because I do like one a little bit better. So it's number 3 for me. It is a B plus A minus. Really nothing wrong with it other than the Crunge. Everything else is awesome. It's just I have 3 albums I love, and it's hard for me to rank 2 and 3. They're both very equal to me.
Yeah.
But maybe the Crunge for me was enough to move it to 3. But again, I love it. It's still one that I play quite a bit. A lot of these songs are really, really good. Did you find out who covered it?
No. You're gonna have to.
Yeah, I'll look while you're.
You're gonna have to find that one. I did not. I mean, Sheryl Crow's done it, but I'm pretty sure not talking about Sheryl Crow. So
No.
Yeah. So on to Physical Graffiti. So we go about 2 years here. I guess John Paul Jones. This is a double album, by the way. So this is February 24th, 1975. 15 songs. They wrote enough material for 3 sides of a double album, and then they added some unreleased tracks for the last side. One of the songs being Houses of the Holy, which was the name of the last album. So that was a held over song, which actually I think was recorded. I think I read it in 1970 or 71. Like that song had been around a while, and they reworked it and put it on here. But some of these songs were written, a few of them were written earlier. This first album on Swan Song Records, John Paul Jones considered quitting. He was kind of sick of the grind and touring, of touring and recording, and not really having a lot of time off. But they told him to just take some time off, and then he came back. The studio time that was originally booked to record the album went to Bad Company to record their debut, which was something I never knew. So I thought that was interesting. The informal atmosphere allowed them to really be creative in the studio, which I think was what they what they always tried to do. Right now, the drugs and alcohol kind of got involved later and kind of prevented some of that creativity from happening. But I think they always tried to keep it open, and I think that's why this band was able to stay together. The same four guys is like they would give each other space when they needed to, and were able to handle being with each other enough. But yet, when there came time to create, they would just kind of be laid back about it. So you've heard many stories about people being hard to record with and being perfectionists, and it sounds like this was a real creative group, which is good, and it led us to some greatness. So I guess John Bonham was really a driving force in the studio on this one, suggesting how complicated parts could be played together. It could be pulled off live, and then it led to him getting a lot of songwriting credits. So, which I thought that was pretty interesting too. Because he had always had a few credits here and there, but there's a lot of songwriting credits for him on here. So, but that's a double album too. So, my favorites on here, Houses of the Holy is a good song. Trample Underfoot's a good song. The Wanton song I like. Kashmir, I do really like it, but it's too freaking long. So it's not like Stairway is 8 minutes, 30 something seconds, I think. This one's 8:37, I think, right? 8:37. And it just feels really long to me. So, but I do really love the riff. And I mean, it's an iconic song, obviously. I did not care for Down by the Seaside. I'm sorry. Excuse me. Boogie with Stu, Black Country Woman. I didn't like any of those songs. It kind of sounds like a lot, but we're talking this is a double album, it's 15 songs. So there's, one or two, there's one song on here more than, I would skip on some other albums, but that's because there's so many. But I do have this one as kind of a C- for me. This is 7 out of 8. It's barely mid tier for me. This is just way too long, and there's just too much filler on here. It's too much stuff that for them, like they were writing such great like hooky songs that would stick in your head that you couldn't get out of your head. And then this one just doesn't have a lot of that, and it's a double album, so it feels like there's just a lot of filler that I'm just kind of going through the motions listening to. It's not something I come back to often. It's not something I'm going to come back to often again. I just don't. I'm not that huge a fan of this double album in its entirety. Now, if they cut it down to one album of 8-9 songs, maybe I would like it more. I'm not sure, but there's just not a whole lot here to love for me. Even the songs that are my favorites aren't songs that I'm like, I would put all the other favorite songs that we've already talked about ahead of all of these songs. So even these ones aren't up there, but they're still classics that I like and recognize as soon as I hear them and that kind of thing. But I don't know. What did you think of Physical Graffiti? Did you find out who redid Dire Maker?
I didn't. The only one I could find was
right?
Sheryl Crow, and I don't know that that's the one I'm thinking of. Like, to me, that doesn't sound right, but I don't know. But
anyway,
I'm on the other end of the spectrum of this.
Okay,
I'm going to say, against a lot of the things that I say in every episode, this is my favorite double album of all time.
Wow.
I love this record. I think the first LP, the side 1 and side 2, is a banger. I think from 1 to 6, all those songs are bangers for me. I can see why people would get bored with the second LP, the side 3 and 4, but I love it. I'll sit with my headphones on and I'll just listen to Bonham go to town on this record. He is a beast, and
he is definitely a beast, man.
This is the moment where I feel like it all came together for him. This might as well be, in my opinion, a John Bonham solo record to me. This is
okay.
This is a clinic of how to make the best drum rock record of all time. And again, I'm not trying to take anything away from Jimmy Page. I think there's awesome riffs here. I do think that Robert Plant's vocals are a little strange on this record. I don't think he sounds at his best, but I love the music. I love this record. Like I came back to it, and then I came back to it again, and then I came back to it again. I love Custard Pie. I love The Rover. And My Time of Dying is probably too long, but I love it. House of the Holy is phenomenal. Trampled Underfoot is so good. Kashmir, I think, is classic, like you said. I mean, that those first 6 songs to me are as good as Stickman for me. Now the rest maybe will take a little step back, but I think that first half is so strong that I would come back to this anytime before I would come to 1, 2, or 3 for sure. 1, 2, and 3 to me don't stand up as well as this. This sounds great. So I love it. I'm just on the other end of the spectrum for you. This is number 2, and it's right alongside Houses of the Holy. To me, I'd flip them here or there because I love both of those albums. But same thing, A minus, B plus. Physical Graffiti is just a personal favorite of mine. I feel like they're the only ones in my head that can do right by a double album. Everybody else needs to stick to a single album. I'm biased to Led Zeppelin, I guess. So yeah, I loved it, partner.
Yeah, that's where we differ for sure on that one. Wow. That's 2 opposite ends of the spectrum. I have it second last. You have it second from the top.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Wow. All right. Well, I'm not in any shape to argue with you much today, so I'm just gonna move on because I really don't have there's not much for me to hate there. I just don't,
I get it.
I just don't love it.
Listen, we're talking about
I don't really like that much, but I don't hate any of it.
Right, we're talking about one of the best rock bands in the world. These are the same musicians. Yeah. It's really hard for me to say there's any bad albums here.
Yeah, right.
I get some things are just going to stand up a little better to you. You're going to sing along more to them. They're going to be in your head more. And I get it. Like that's a lot of these other 1 through 4, basically with House of the Holy are just hit after hit after hit. You could probably listen to.
I guess maybe that's what it is. I'm more of a hits guy with Zeppelin than I am a deep cuts guy.
I understand that. Sure.
I mean, I do like some of the deeper cuts that are not, that weren't played all that many times. And you look on Spotify and you're like, okay, this one wasn't played that many times. And there's some of those I love, but not as many as you, obviously.
I feel like
that's the difference.
Yeah, I feel like I sought out more because I just love this band so much growing up that I wanted to hear, I didn't want to hear Black Dog anymore. I didn't want to hear rock and roll anymore.
Okay.
And my dad had this album and I just, I pulled the lyrics out. I read them with it. And, I just fell in love with the album.
I have to say too, you got into this as a child.
Yep.
I didn't get into this until I was a full adult.
Right.
None of my friends, none of my friends really were into Zeppelin much. The people that got me into the stuff that I started to like, and then I kind of branched from there, were into, more Metallica, more like Deep Purple, which Deep Purple isn't that much different from Led Zeppelin, honestly. No. So that one kind of doesn't fit, but there's just some of that, like the heavier stuff, and they didn't make fun of Led Zeppelin, but nobody was there. Hey, dude, listen to this. Listen to this. Listen to this.
Dude,
I didn't have any of that. I had that with ELO. I had that with Queen. Growing up as a child when I was like 8. But this one, my cousin, nobody I knew really was ever into them to where they got me into them. So I didn't get into them. I kind of got into them when they put that box set out. Remember they put that box set out with the Zeppelin on it?
Yeah, Mothership.
Yeah, no. That's really recent. I think.
Oh, okay.
This was like a box set. And it was like, I think they had like the crop circles on it on the box. But anyway, I think there was like 4 in there. But it was like all of their stuff kind of put in this one box. So I bought that. And I had to be 1990, 92, I don't know, somewhere in there. But anyway, I got that, and I really started getting into Zeppelin more then. And that's, right. I'm 18, I'm 20, at that point. So I was actually an adult by the time I really got into Zeppelin. And I heard songs, and I knew who they were, sure.
Right.
But I didn't really go and listen to all of the albums in their entirety until way later. You were way into that earlier, so maybe that's part of the difference too.
Dude, I remember spinning these records 5, 6 years old, 7 years old. I mean, we're talking
Surprised you
was
remember much at all from being 5, 6, or
that's
7,
it,
dude.
that's
I don't have
no,
many memories of 5, 6, 7 years old. But
I had a lot of stuff
I
happen in
don't
my
know.
life right around there. So I
Yeah,
remember, kindergarten and first grade years, and that's really all I had to do. I moved around a lot as a kid.
yeah.
So I remember like where I was living at the time,
I mean, I
what
do. I remember
you
that
know,
big stuff too. I remember I
yeah,
could name all the teachers I've ever had, but
yeah,
like, man, specific stuff. Like, I
yeah,
have memories of like first time I tried to ride a bike wrecking into a tree. But there's not a whole lot. Like, I don't remember. My mom, they tried to expose me to all kind of stuff. They took me to Donnie and Marie when I was little, but I don't know what year that was. Like, I
sure,
couldn't say if I was 9 or 8 or 4. Like, I don't remember.
right.
So I don't know. It's just maybe because I'm older now too. You forget more shit. I don't know, but it's weird. Sometimes people like they're like, yeah, I remember this, like this all this specific stuff from when they were like 5. I'm like, how? So I don't know. But anyway, not that I'm doubting you. It's just it's cool that you have that memory. I don't
Yeah.
have that stuff. I guess. Anyway, so you really love that one, huh?
Yeah, I still come back to it today, and I don't come back to a lot of the older stuff. So to me, it just kind of keeps living on, and
I
I
wonder
like
how
it.
much you came back to the next album. Presents, March 31st, 1976. 7 songs, Page produces. I give him credit for this. There's no keyboards, there's very little acoustic guitar on this album, which I kind of like, but the problem is I don't really like many of the songs, so it
Yep.
didn't really help me that much. This was tough times for the band. Robert Plant was in a serious car accident. They were tax exiles, from what I understand. Like, they sought to have tax shelter from the UK, I guess, which maybe had the huge taxes at the time or something, and they kind of sought tax shelter, which meant that they couldn't play in their home country because they couldn't work there. So they they had some problems, like with Plant being in a car accident, and then he had to recuperate like here in the United States because of tax exile reasons. So they had no tour in support of this album due to Plant still being ill after the accident. It led to him, like I said, recuperating here because of tax exile status, and it hurt him for a while as a band too. This also led to lyrics that were kind of themed around his personal situation and wondering about his future. It was recorded in Hollywood, and it was kind of rushed due to the Rolling Stones. They're recording their Black and Blue album right after them. And I guess Jimmy Page actually bartered with them to get 2 more days of studio time where he wanted to finish some overdubs. And he did them like working 18 or 20 hours those 2 days or something ridiculous. The album, I thought this was really cool too. I never knew this before about this album. This is also an album I don't like very much, I'm going to be honest. And I never really came back to it before, and I probably won't listen to it much again after today or this week. But the album was almost called Thanksgiving because it was completed the day before Thanksgiving. And I guess Robert Plant, sounds like he almost had them talked into calling this album Thanksgiving, which I thought would have been really interesting. I never knew that. But they named it Presence instead because I guess to kind of honor their presence as a band and how big they were and their presence on stage, their live performances and blah, blah, blah. So I guess somebody came up with that. They're like, fine, go with it. But I thought Thanksgiving would have been interesting. My favorites on this album, this is rare for me. I have no favorites on this album.
Okay.
None. There's songs that are okay to me, but I have no favorites on this album. So there's just nothing that stands out that I really, really like. Skippers for me are Achilles' Last Stand. It's so long. I mean, I know there's some great parts in there, but yeah, it's way too long. I didn't like Candy Store Rock. I didn't like T for One. That's definitely a snoozer. That and Achilles' Last Stand, I think, are the 2 super long songs on here. T for One's 9 minutes, and Achilles' Last Stand's over 10. So there's only 7 songs here, and 2 of them take up 20 minutes, 21 minutes of this album, or 20 minutes. So Yeah, really, nothing on this record stands out to me. I got a D plus. I almost hate even giving them a D because I guess the rest of it's not that bad, but I just probably won't listen to it anytime again soon. There's just nothing for me here. So, what would you think of Presence?
Did you have it 8, I assume?
Sorry, my
Yeah.
bad. Yeah,
It's
8.
okay. Yeah, so it should tell you everything that you need to know. This is the one album my dad didn't have. He never bought it.
Ah, okay,
So
that's fair. That's
so
fine.
I never listened to this one until I was an adult, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, that's why. Yeah, this is not good. This is pretty bad actually. I like agree with you on Achilles' Last Stand. I like maybe the first half of it, and then I'm out. I like Nobody's Fault But Mine. I think that's the one song on the album that stands kind of on its own to me. Nothing
I
else.
tried. I
Really?
don't know why. I felt like I should like this song. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I tried. I listened to it, and then I listened to it again.
Yeah.
And I because I'm like, if there's one song on here I thought that I should like, it would be that one, and I just wasn't feeling it. So maybe I did used to like it and just didn't remember. I thought I liked this song, but then this time I'm like, it didn't hit me at all. So it's weird. So it's funny that you say that because I tried to make myself like the song. I really did.
Yeah, to me that's the only song to me that kind of stands on its own. So
Okay.
So one pretty good song and the rest is kind of it's there. I had a hard time giving it a D, but
I
gave
feel
it
bad about
I
that.
gave it a C minus.
Yeah.
It's their worst. I think putting it as number 8 is enough to beat on it that I don't have to give it a D. But it's not great. So
I had Physical Graffiti as a C minus, so I kind of felt like if I was going to rank it below, but I guess I could have ranked it the
That's
same.
fair.
I feel bad giving it a D plus, but
Yeah.
it's kind of more for that reason, just to have it below that one. But
Right.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, this isn't great. Unfortunately, you could kind of
Easy
I,
8.
I don't obviously know where they were. You were telling all about all the things that were going wrong, but it just kind of feels like they weren't together in this making this anyway. So it kind of all makes sense how it all kind of played out to me.
Yeah,
honestly.
and I think that like I read a lot of stuff about alcoholism and heroin, but more so on In Through the Outdoor. But I feel like you're right. I feel like it was already happening. It was already a problem on this album because you're right. It doesn't sound like they're playing together. They're not. It
Like the
doesn't
first
sound
time.
like they're all contributing, right?
Right,
So
right.
all tracks are credited Jimmy Page and Robert Plant, except where noted. And there's one song that it has writing credits for all of them, Royal Orleans, and that's it.
Yep.
So it maybe they just they were all doing their own thing. So which makes me wonder, like, why do you, if it's not working, why do they feel like they had to force it at this point in their career? I understand there's contractual obligations. They're on their own label. They have all the money that they're ever going to need. So there's probably nobody forced them to put this out. So why I don't know why that maybe they just didn't feel that way, but I don't know. Maybe there's already cracks starting in the foundation there. I'm not sure, but it gets sadder, unfortunately. So we both have that as an easy 8, right?
Yep.
In Through the Outdoor, last album, August 22nd, 1979. 7 songs. This was recorded, interestingly enough, in ABBA's studios in the Swedish supergroup, ABBA, in their studios in Sweden. Yeah, so this is dominated musically, I guess, by John Paul Jones, along with Plant. Like, this is where the separation happened, and this is where I read a lot about this, where Bonham and Page were often not showing up on time to recording sessions. Bonham's battling alcoholism at this point. Page is battling heroin addiction at this point. Basically, John Paul Jones said also that him and Plant were kind of like this. There was like a definite divide. They were kind of the clean ones. He said the cleaner ones. So they spent a lot of time in the studio playing, creating and playing off each other, John Paul Jones and Robert Plant. And then they would record their parts earlier in the day, and then Bonham and Page would show up and kind of record their parts at night. So they weren't doing this together.
Right.
Now, they still put some iconic songs out on this album, so it's not like it's completely devoid of what they're able to do, like Presence was, but I feel like there had to have been some of that going on then, too.
Right, for sure.
Because it's kind of more of that on here. It's just some stuff on here that just doesn't sound like them, and you're like, what are they doing? It's just, yeah, there's some weirdness. But this is the last album, of course, recorded before John Bonham's death. They broke up just 3 months later after this. He died. They did not tour for this album. So they didn't tour for this album. They didn't tour for Presence. I'm not sure how much they toured for Physical Graffiti, to be
I don't
honest
know.
with you,
I
because
don't know.
I think that tour got cut short. They were coming to the States when Robert Plant got in a serious car accident, and then they recorded Presence in that fall. So literally from like the fall of 75 after the car accident all the way through the rest of this band's existence, they didn't tour.
Right.
So they recorded Presence, put it out, didn't tour. They put In Through the Outdoor out, and 3 months they didn't tour yet, and 3 months later John Bonham was dead and they broke up. So they didn't tour from 1975 on, which is crazy to think about. So
Yep.
the band they struggled after the death of Robert Plant's son Carrick in 1977. I don't know much about this. I didn't spend the time to research this. I mean, there's enough sad stuff going on with the group, but I don't know. I guess I'm sure it's out there what happened to his son. I didn't feel like it was really kind of worth bringing up his son's death to a podcast and talking about it. So I know that the band struggled after that. I think they were all close and they all felt his kind of pain, and then probably all led them to do more of what they were already self-medicating doing, so it didn't help anything. Also, the tax exile led them to not be able to tour at home in England for like more than 2 years or whatever. So it didn't sound like they were touring much anyway, but the name of this album kind of came about because they thought that when they went back to tour, it was going to be like feeling like trying to get back in through the outdoor. Like they weren't even allowed to work over there at the time because of the tax exile status. So once they finally were able to do it, they thought they would be feeling like coming in through the outdoor, which is where the name of the album came from. So I thought that was interesting too. Just how that stuff is come up with, This is real interesting fact. It's unprecedented. I don't know if it's done since. Again, I didn't research this because it's not up until this time. This has never happened. But between October 23rd and November 3rd, 1979, all of Led Zeppelin's albums, all 8 of them, and I'm gonna guess Song Remains the Same too, the live album, that went along with the theatrical release, they were all in the Billboard Top 200 at the same time. All 8 albums. Like it had never happened before then. The only time it had happened where there was even 5 was during Physical Graffiti, where they had 6 albums in the top 200 all at the same time. And I guess it didn't happen for Presence, but then it happened when this album came out. They were all in the top 200, which that's insane to think about. So they must have been raking in so much money by then, because they owned, this is their record company, the last 3 albums.
Yep.
And then I'm sure they made a fortune on Atlantic too, so because they were so huge. And back then, the bands made money for everything. They may or may not have had their the rights to their own songs, but they sure made a lot of money, which changed later on. Let's see, my favorites on this one are Fool of the Rain, All My Love. It's just really, really good stuff. Those 2 are iconic songs. All My Love is still stuck in my head now. And I listened to this album. Like, I've listened to more Zeppelin since I finished this album, even though I did them in order, but I've listened to more Houses of the Holy and more of Untitled before the podcast, and still All of My Love is what's stuck in my head. It's just, I don't know, there's something about that song, that simple little guitar riff that just goes along with the lyrics. It sticks in there. My skippers are a Hot Dog. Is this from the Grease soundtrack? Is that what it's about? Or, yeah, I was like, what is Hot Dog? So that's a very weird song. And Carol Salambra, so long and for what? Like,
Right.
that song goes nowhere. Like, I don't know what they were trying to do there, and it's so long. So Anyway, this is a C. This is mid tier because a couple of songs do recapture some of their magic for me, but mostly there's just not much here for me other than that. So I have this as a 6, just because. And for me, this and Physical Graffiti were the 2 that I had trouble, where one would go at 6 and one would go at 7. And this one only went at 6 because it's shorter. because for me, I didn't like Physical Graffiti, and because of the length of it, the sheer length of it, it just made it hard for me to like that one. I like this one more just because it's shorter, basically, which is it's kind of sad, but it's a sad end to this band too. I wish I would have gotten a chance to see them. Obviously, there's lots of footage out there of them playing live. They're still coming out with bootlegs of shows that they did that nobody's ever heard before. I think one came out a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
So they're coming out all the time. But yeah, it was very, very sad end. And then I was 8. When John died and then the band broke up. So there was no chance for me ever to see these guys live. I'm not even sure they played in the States that many times, to be honest with you. But the good thing is you got The Song Remains the Same, which I believe was recorded at Madison Square Garden.
Yep.
So you got that, and that's brilliantly done. It sounds great. It looks great. Like, that's fantastic. So if you want to see Led Zeppelin live, kind of in their biggest sense, and their when they were the biggest, that's probably the one you want to watch. So at least we have that. So
yep.
What did you think of In Through the Outdoor? I had that one at number 6.
Yeah, so the one thing I will say about this album is I think it sounds really good.
Yeah.
I think the production is top notch, and I think it just kind of stands like head and shoulders over the other 7 albums with how good it sounds. It really holds up. Listening to it today, especially they remastered all the albums. Pretty recently, and the last 10 years or so, I think they remastered all
14,
of them.
15, somewhere in there, I think. Yeah.
So they remastered it, and it just sounds great. I don't think the songs are that great on this. I'm with you with the ones you like. I do like In the Evening.
Not one I'd skip. That was decent too.
In the Evening, Full in the Rain, All My Love, I think are the 3 that really stand out. The other ones are they don't really do it for me, but I will say it just sounds good. And to me it's number 7. It's a C. So it's something that I would come back to. I don't know that I would have come back to it if it wasn't for this. I definitely will. It just sounds good. I don't know that I would seek it out to listen, but I could have it on while I'm working or something, and it just sounds good. And I give them credit for that because a lot of things, back from that time, just it doesn't hold up as well. And I give them credit because this does. I actually like some of the keyboards that John Paul Jones does. It sounds cool. It kind of makes it more modern to me. So, I like it. Like I said, it's 7, but I like it. It's not bad. I think the only one that I wouldn't ever come back to is Presence. Other than that, everything else, at least there's a song or 2 that I would come back and listen to. So
and honestly, I didn't listen to Physical Graffiti much, and realistically, I mean, totally transparent. Like your passion for that album is going to make me go back and listen to it again and see what am I missing something here. Like, I'm going to go back and put that through my ear holes again and
just listen to John Bonham.
I'm gonna, and and I do. I mean, John Bonham stands out for me on all these albums.
Yes.
So it's not like I'm not listening to him, but I'm gonna go back and give that one another chance. So, and maybe it'd move up to 6 or maybe even 5. Who knows?
Yeah,
but
who knows?
But I'm gonna go back and give that one another shot just on your passion for that one. But I think on the rest we pretty much agree.
Pretty close.
Pretty much.
All right, you want to go ahead and give your 1 to 8?
Let's do it, man. I got overall rating. I got number 1, Houses of the Holy. Number 2, Untitled, Led Zeppelin 4. Number 3, Led Zeppelin 2. Number 4, Led Zeppelin 1. Number 5, Led Zeppelin 3. So I have in the Superfecta 4213 for 2, 3, 4, and 5. In Through the Outdoor, number 6. Physical Graffiti, number 7. And Presence, which I will never come back to, number 8.
I'm with you. Yeah, number 1 for me was Stickman. Led Zeppelin 4, Untitled.
Stickman!
Instead of the Spoon Man, he's playing with the sticks, like cracking sticks in the microphone.
There you go. Constantly cracking sticks. That's great.
So,
all right. Well, it's a good thing nobody listens to this because somebody would do that. Somebody would try to record that.
They probably would. So 1 is Stickman, 2, Physical Graffiti. 3, I got Houses of the Holy. 4, I have Led Zeppelin 1. 5, I have Led Zeppelin 2. 6, I have Led Zeppelin 3. 7, In Through the Outdoor. And 8, I'm with you. Presence. I'm good on that one. It may be the last time in my life I ever listen to that, and I'm good with that.
Yeah, could be.
You made it, partner. You made it.
I did it. I only had to lean over and blow my nose once, and only had a couple coughing sessions. So
Yeah, man.
not
Thank
too
you
bad,
for powering through that. That sucks when you're sick. So
yeah, it's all
appreciate
good,
that.
man. This is definitely something I enjoy doing. It's just I didn't want
Yeah.
to bog it down with my stuff.
Yeah.
So that was all I was concerned about. I still had a good time, so I always do doing this. So this is fun.
Good deal. So next week we will totally switch gears and we're going to go with Lamb of God, which we both love, but
God,
this is not anywhere near Led Zeppelin.
Oh,
So
this is of the stuff that we're going to review on this podcast, they're probably about as far apart as they're going to be able to get.
yeah,
I mean, maybe if we get into some Tom Petty or something at some point, I can see that maybe being a little further away. But
yeah,
man, Led Zeppelin and the Lamb of God is a huge chasm between those two bands. So.
certainly
And even
is.
between Killswitch and Led Zeppelin. So this one kind of stands on its own, right?
It does.
So,
but we're here
in a lot of ways, I guess.
You know, if anybody ever were to stumble on our channel
Come
and
on,
start listening,
right?
We got everything. We got
where
something
you at,
for
Tyler
everything.
logged in. You're supposed to be here. He was going to rank him too and join in and do it with us, but no.
Well, it's not too late. You can always find us on YouTube. You don't have to find us live. We'd like for you to be live.
Yeah.
But if you can't make it, just hop in and in the comments, write your order. We want to know what everybody else thinks. I want to know what you think of physical graffiti, or if you agree with my partner, to see if you don't get it. You don't understand where I'm coming from. So, definitely catch us on YouTube. Definitely catch us on Spotify. We're still on there. Apple Podcasts. We're still everywhere. So please listen. Please leave comments. We'd love to hear from you. But in the meantime, thanks for the people that are listening. We appreciate it. We're hoping we get at some point a crew here to hang out with us. So we have fun doing it, but we'd love to have more people to have fun with us. So. But thanks for listening. We appreciate it. And we will see you next week for Lamb of God.
Rock on.
Looks like you've been missing a lot of work lately.
I wouldn't say I've been missing it, Bob.
What would you say you do here?
God damn it. Bob, we love playing here tonight. My brother's ready.
It helps if you think of it as a game, Bob. Every game has a winner and a loser.
You must possess strength to inflict pain, Bob.